So, good morning, everyone. Just like I've been promising this week, I'm going to demonstrate how to draw the hand. And as you can see here, I have a little sketch of my hand, okay, on which what I want you to consider is what I've been stressing in class, especially with the art club in the morning, is that we should always take into consideration the shape of things, and the shape that I've been talking about is the square. So if you notice right here, we basically have a square, and that will be the fundamentals on how to build up your shape. Look, another square, another square, another. This is more like a rectangle, but we do understand that it's a repetitive form. That basically the way you arrange it is what basically comes out of it. So if you notice also, there is certain measurements. For example, if you measure from here to here, it's going to be the same as from here to here. Okay. If you measure here, it's going to basically be the same thing. My hand here is a little scrunched up, so definitely it would be almost the same size. Okay. And of course, depending on the size of the finger, would be the size also of the thumb, and of course, the size of your brace. Okay. The more shading you put into things, the more realistic they start becoming. Also, I want you to consider that sometimes when people draw hands, they usually put, the fingers touching each other. There is a space, there is a gap in between. That's really important for you to consider, and the way that the skin also folds around. It's not something flat, so we have to show that it has some sort of a continuation, and it basically just wraps around. That's what the skin does. Okay, so I don't know if I should do my hand more like this, so that it's something different. So, or something, I don't know. Let's try this side then. I don't know. I'm trying to. I have to get up to. I don't know. How can I make it more interesting? Like there, maybe there. Okay, so basically, again, the square is going to be your basis. Okay, and from there you're going to take how is the distribution? How is the distribution of the shape of your hand? So let's go from here. Try to see, okay, one finger. Two fingers. If you notice this part right here, this one's a little bit longer. Okay. And then we go on to this one. This one is a little bit shorter. Okay, and then there's a big gap. See, there's a big gap right here. It's because the form is starting to show that it's rounded. It's got volume. Okay, so that's the placement of my fingers, and I start doing the sections. So I compared this section to the next one, and if you notice from here to here, it would be about this, a little bit less, right? So a little bit less. So the fold would be there. Now this one is a little bit longer. All right. Am I doing anything super dark? No. This is just the beginning stages. I'm just planning. Okay. Then afterwards, we'll go ahead and give better definition. Here, I'm going to look at this shape, which is what we artists know as the negative space, okay, which is this part. So comparing this line to this line, it goes a little bit beyond. The finger, maybe around there, roundish. Everyone has different fingers, of course. You know, women have smaller hands. Sometimes their fingers are what we call tapered, which is basically, this is thicker on a man. You know, woman would be tapered, which means that they are much skinny on the tip. Okay. Again, I'm gonna consider the negative space, which don't take it as, oh, it's negative. You know, it just basically makes reference to what is outside of the object, and in this case it would be the hand. Okay, so you start building it up, and then from here, again, negative space, oh, big gap, okay, you go up, and then this is a small section. It's kind of like bloop bloop, and then this one's smaller, okay. Okay, so more or less I have the placement of the fingers. Okay, so here I have more rounded part, and that's going to basically, if you notice, connect this part, this side, okay, this part to this part, and then we have this big area that it goes down. Half the hand, and then it goes in. Okay, so from here we have another chunk. Boom, boom. So as you can see, hands, you know, just like faces, you know, some people have big cheeks, you know, some people have hands with cheeks, you know. I happen to have, you know, hands that are not very skinny. Okay. So then you start giving it all the lines. A lot of people consider drawing hands hard to do because, you know, it's giving it a characteristic that every finger is different, every space is different. Depending on how you place your hand also, you know, starts looking weird sometimes. Okay, and so I'm going to try to do my thumb by considering So you see this space right here, it's this space right here. Okay, and then I have a space that goes around there. And then my finger starts looking and then you have another shape here that's part of your bone. And there, voila, that's the wrist. That's the wrist. And then, you know, and there's the hand. So, in order to start giving it the personality that it has, you start defining, okay? This is called contouring. You see a little bit on my nail there, and there's a whole bunch of wrinkles, and then it goes kind of flat, and there. Okay, so that's starting to give definition. And then here we have something like web feet. Okay, so that sometimes looks kind of weird. So this goes in like this, and then it comes right out. Now remember, the perspective I have is different from what the camera is looking at. So it might look a little different for you than the observation I am making from my point of vision. Okay, so it's just giving it its round shape. Okay, like I said again, you know, not all the lines should be the same thickness. Okay, here I have this part that the finger comes from behind, wraps around, I would like to compare drawing hands to drawing mountains. You know, they have peaks, they have more rounded areas. You know, I think I should have something here. This one goes in, this one opens up like this. So yeah, they have, you know, open rounded areas, you know, some are more irregular. They go in, they come back out. And that's the beauty of drawing the human figure, to be honest with you. We look at ourselves and we perceive, how does the hand look? I think I know how the hand looks, and then we draw that, and we forget to observe. When you observe, you start noticing things, and that's what makes a drawing more realistic looking than what you were doing before. Okay, so the more you do it, the more you practice, the better you're gonna get. So I'd say, it's your hand. Do it. Just have it pose for you in different poses. I think this line is a little bit too low. And then, of course, you can always ask your parents, to pose for you. So you have different views. It's different when you draw someone else's hand also, and you can experiment with drawing feet. And from there you can start building onto seeing how the body works, how it's built, how it comes together, and so on. So I want to say that more or less we are done with the shape of it. Now, the other thing I'm going to concentrate on is where do we have our predominant shadows, okay? And obviously, it's always around the folds, but then there's also areas, like here, if you notice, also. And that's what starts giving, your drawings life. Try when you do the shading, always start light, and then from there on you start building on top, the darks. Try to give it the volume. Try to copy the shape of whatever you're trying to capture. What do I mean with that? If for example these fingers, they're not flat. They have to have some sort of roundness to them. So you simulate that when you do, your shading. Okay, this area is more flat. Okay, so you just do your lines more straight. Here's a little curvy, and it comes down almost like a river. You notice? Here. Then we come back on this side. And just have fun, It's like I always say, art is a problem, that is waiting to be solved, but it must be solved in the best possible way, It should be relaxing. I usually like to play a little bit of instrumental music, so that gets me in tune with my artistic identity, that helps you relax. And time goes by quickly when you're drawing. I think this one should come a little bit lower here and here. And that should remain as part of the shadows. Yeah, a little bit darker. A bit darker because this finger is casting a little bit of shadow also, okay, onto this finger. And so is this one too. Don't do the whole thing dark, you know. Needs to show different values. Okay, this part, it's a bit darker also. You might see a little bit of an indication of the nail. This one also. Okay. This one a little bit darker here. And there. If you follow what you see, you're not gonna get lost. Okay. This is basically something that is yours, and we know our bodies, you know, and if you know you're doing it wrong, then you're gonna figure it out right away, and then you're gonna say, oops, I need to erase. And that's how it is, you know. But don't kill yourself over it, you know. It should be fun. It's a fun activity. And you'll learn, you know, like I told you, with time we'll develop our artistic eye, and you start seeing it. You start seeing the proportions. You start seeing, you know, oh, okay, this lines shouldn't be here, you know, that whole thing. The way that the light also hits the surface of your skin, you know, it helps, you know. The more, it's like having a lot of details, you know. The more details you have, the more information, you know, then you can start interpreting the story. So the same thing, you know, with your drawings, you know. It is like telling a story without saying words and without, you know, giving hints. It is what it is, and then people look at it, they interpret it their own way. Sometimes they don't get your story, and then that's when artists have to step in also and say, well, you know, the backstory behind my work is that, and then people eventually make the connection and understand, you know, what you were trying to say with whatever your work is trying to represent. So with this, there's no story, but we do understand that you are trying to portray a more realistic version of a hand. Okay, so this will be an anatomical study of something, you know. Some people like realistic drawings. Some people like more interpretive art. That would be more like I don't know, what can I say? Abstract. Okay. My preference has always been, you know, producing work that resembles nature, which is called figurative art. Okay. FIU has a really good program, and they, as a matter of fact, have an academia, which is something that follows the teachings of the classical art. And I have studied there, and it has helped me, you know, by copying, you know, a lot of masterworks, and that gives you a better illusion of how to do and portray, you know, things that look and feel as if they were realistic, things that you find in nature. Okay, so let me move my hand, and I'm gonna give it some lighter tones now that I have the basis of where the darker ones should be. You know, I must also remember that I have to keep some areas white, not everything is under shadow. Okay, and this is also part of my arm. This is some of the wrinkles, you know, and I do want to add a little bit of shadows on this side, because I know that it being the hand being a round object, it has to cast a shadow, you know, on this end. Okay, so in this instance I'm using a number 2B pencil. It is soft lead. When you use 2, 4, 6B pencils, you just gotta remember, always pick up your hand, do not drag it on top of your drawing, because when that happens, then everything gets smudged, and then everything becomes gray, and then you lose all these precious little whites in there, you know. So I would suggest you to always remember that as a little hint, that you should always keep your hand, you know, not on the paper but on top of the paper if you are drawing on top, you know, going back and forth. Don't touch the surface of the paper. Also, I know that in class we have done some hatching, cross hatching, and if you notice, these are long lines that I'm producing, you know, and then you could go on the side and give it some cross hatching. Okay, that always makes your work a little bit more interesting, and gives it a different finish. Okay, a person that's educated and knows about techniques is always going to show it, because you always want to show your work to be of the best quality, and not just, you know, like when you go ahead and you do some shading and people do this and then they do their finger, you know. There is a moment for the finger as well, you know. It depends on what type of work you're doing, you know. Sometimes artists, we want to leave things a little rough, like for example this one, I think it's pretty rough, but you know, other times we want to make it look smooth, and that would make it a little bit more photorealistic. Okay, so it all depends on what you're trying to do. But for this exercise, what I wanted to show was how to build the hand. And of course, again, I'm going to talk about the square, the square, the square, the square. That is the basis for everything. You know, if you have a square, then you can break it up into pieces, and then you can even produce a circle. Okay, so that would be the end of this activity. I hope you try it. I hope you like it, enjoy it. Thank you. See you next time.